to select.
Yes, yes.
So you maintain that you had quorum.
Yes,
to vet these.
That is why I am
when
saying
the minority
that, yes,
they left
that is why I'm saying that the
sitting.
committee, to take decision of the committee, you have 11 members taking decision, because by the composition of the committee is made up of a total of 11. 4 from the minority side and 7 from the majority side, based on the numerical strength that Ghanaians have given to the respective sides of the House. So, therefore, a committee made up of 11, if 6 persons of the committee are there, they qualified within the meaning of Article 104 to take a decision of the committee.
But I recall when Alexander Panyoma, the minority leader, who is a ranking on this committee, made a statement before they exited the committee sittings. They made reference to what the Speaker had said regarding what had happened the day before and the decision of the Speaker affecting some key members of the committee, the majority chief whip, and then also the second deputy minority whip. To that extent, was that not a concern that was well placed?
When they raised the issue at the committee level, as the chairman of the committee, I delivered the ruling. The ruling was, one, Speaker doesn't communicate to the committee through Honorable Habib. Speaker has a formal way of communicating to parliamentary committees. 2, if you look at the law critically, would you say that because the whips, the majority whip and the minority whip, would not be in Parliament tomorrow because of the suspension, Parliament will not have quorum to do business and take decision?
Parliament will, but we're talking about the Appointments Committee.
Similarly, the Appointment Committee, being made up of 11 members, and 2 of them are affected by the suspension, then we are left with 9 members of the committee. Are you, by that imperative, saying that the 9 members do not have quorum to do business and to take decision? So is that the imperative? If that is the imperative, then by the suspension of the members, we shouldn't be sitting tomorrow in Parliament. Once the suspended members of Parliament does not go a long way to affect the quorum of Parliament, Parliament will continue to do business and, if possible, take decision, if there is a decision to be taken, once more than 50% of all members of Parliament are present.
So although a decision had been taken by the Speaker, at the time you were sitting, to the extent that the Speaker had not formally communicated that decision to you, a member of the committee drawing your attention as the chair doesn't also suffice?
No, for me, it doesn't suffice.
Why is
because I stated clearly, if a procedure is set down for a right to be exercised, that procedure would have been followed in exercising the right. If you had based it on the decision of Habib, which turned out not to be true, because we were all at the committee level when Honorable Ayariga pointed it out to him that Speaker wants to meet the selection committee, members of the selection committee. However, due to one reason or the other, the meeting had been postponed to Monday. So how could that affect the meeting?
Well, there was an indication that the Speaker was taking his wife to the airport.
Yes, so the meeting was postponed to
today.
Today.
Have you had that meeting?
So, yes. So how could that affect the membership of the committee?
Well, but
assuming, let me reduce it to even a board level. You have a board of 11 members. One reason or the other, 2 of the board members have been suspended. It is left with 9 members of the board. Are you saying that the 9 members of the board cannot take decision? The 9 members of the board cannot do any deliberations until the suspension of the 2 is over? For me, it doesn't accord with common sense and reason. So those who are towing that particular line, I indicated it clearly that they probably have a blurred view of the law. because I have looked at Article 102 carefully. I look at Article 104 carefully, and I am very much aware about the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Justice Abrulai versus Attorney General on the issue of quorum. So the Supreme Court has given a clear interpretation to Article 102 as well as Article 104 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So guided by the decision of the Supreme Court, I think 2 people out of the committee being suspended doesn't affect quorum of the committee.
Well, but then again, you've gone ahead to do your work.
Yes.
7 persons were vetted just by the majority side of the House.
Yes.
I mean, of the committee.
Yes.
Even though by law you argue that you did the right thing, by operation as well, to the extent that they weren't present, they did not take away something from the committee's work in terms of questions that could have been asked, the scrutiny that these nominees would have been subjected to, for us to be able to know what they are bringing to that ministry or the level of quality that they have.
The framers of the Constitution are very much aware of all these things in coming out with Article 104 of the Constitution, that at any time, 50% of members of Parliament, 50% of members of committee can do a deliberation. So once we have 50% of the members of the committee, we can proceed to conduct our vetting.
And that's why you're saying that...
You saw members, the 6 present, asking very important questions.
Well, indeed, I'm not believing
Yes.
that point, and I'm not watering down the quality of the questions that the majority on that committee asked. Talking about the fact that to the extent that if majority were present, we would have a much more impactful process.
In every democratic...
about what happens. You are just your side, and in a number of the instances we saw that you ask just 1, 2, 3 questions. After 15 minutes, you discharge the person.
That is the number of questions members of the committee that form quorum to do business and take decision have decided to act. And as a chairman of the committee, I cannot impose a number of questions on anybody. At our committee pre-sitting, it was agreed before the commencement of the vetting that members are entitled to ask 3 questions. And for every question asked, depending upon the answer, they may be entitled to a follow-up question. And the follow-up question will be at the discretion of the chairman of the committee, in the sense that a follow-up question is supposed to flow from the answer given by the nominee. So if a member decides that I want to ask a question instead of 3 questions and a supplementary question, as a chairman of the committee, it is not my responsibility to ensure that the member asks 3 questions. My responsibility is to ensure that the question that a member is entitled to ask by the rules is up to 3 with a follow-up if the need arose from the answers given by the nominee. That is what So you realize that when they were even sitting there, it got to a time that either minority or majority, having looked at the nominee before them, they may choose to congratulate the nominee and say that they don't have any question for the nominee. At the end of the day, it is important the public get to know why nominees are vetted. Article 78 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana indicates clearly that anybody, for you to become a minister of state, you must otherwise qualify to be a member of parliament. And qualification of a member of parliament is set out in Article 94. So most of the people vetted are members of parliament. Therefore, finding out whether they are qualified or not to become a member of parliament is neither here nor there. So I don't think with those people, we should go a long way vetting them.
If that's your reasoning...
Even the questions that we ask, I am worried about it because it ought not to have been asked.
You are worried at some of the questions?
Yes.
Your appointments committee
Let me give you an example.
Tell me.
None of us has the mandate of GRA. So if Ghana Revenue Authority has a task clearance on Alfredo Kansi before me, that should suffice that Alfredo Kansi has paid his tax and has been certified by the authority to the effect that you have paid your tax. Is it my responsibility to be going into it whether you have paid tax or you have not paid tax? Because that is the responsibility of GRA to investigate. You understand?
But also,
and then the law says in Article 94, you have fully paid your tax or you've made the necessary arrangement to pay. And the necessary arrangement and the full payment of the tax is to GRA. And now GRA, that is responsible for the collection of the tax, has cleared you that you have paid your tax up to date. Who am I to be doubting the credibility of GRA to the extent that I should be asking questions to the effect that you have paid tax on this, you have not paid tax on this? That is the responsibility. So once the responsibility has been discharged by GRA and placed before us, it sufficed. But that's why I said some of the questions.
You as the chair of the committee, you're saying some of the questions you thought were not relevant.
Yes.
But you allowed them.
Well, at a point, I indicated clearly that once there is a tax clearance before us, it suffices. So you can move further to ask any question based on the tax clearance.
Well, but I also hold the view
my ruling
that even though, yes, the GRA would have put a tax clearance before you, it also behoves on you as a committee to interrogate the documents that are put before you.
Yes, so
that's what they were doing.
Then you are interrogating the document before you. So your question should be in relation to the tax clearance before you.
But that's what the questions that were asked.
You
with
understand?
reference to the tax clearance certificate.
You started working in 1990, and you are an employee. I'm just making an example of TV3.
Yes.
And the TV3 has a duty to pay your tax. To be able to know whether TV3 has been paying your tax or not, when you apply for a tax clearance certificate, it is at that point that the tax collector will tell you that TV3 has not been paying your certificate.
Right.
But if the tax clearance has given you an indication that TV3 has been paying your certificate, why then would a vetting question be, do you know whether or not TV3 has been paying your certificate or not?
Well, it's just a matter of affirmation. You ask.
Well,
you
for me, I do not see this should really be a vetting question to somebody who is a member of parliament and has satisfied the constitutional imperative in Article 94 through the EC, an independent body voted for to come to parliament and has put the same tax clearance that EC is satisfied of before us. And as a committee, a member will say, I'm not satisfied with that.
Maybe there are some things that may have been glossed over, which the committee might then also identify.
The EC has glossed over it and allowed the person to contest election to become a member of parliament. So are you seeking to establish that the person is not qualified to become a member of parliament by the question that you are asking? And is that what you're supposed to do in vetting?
And if you're raising this...
I always maintain that in every society, some are morally righteous, others are contrary. So these are some of the few questions that I have a problem with.
I see, but if you're raising this concern, and I come back to you as a chair of this same committee that you raise concerns about some of the questions that you allow, would you also take part of the blame that it's because you allow some of these questions that you are telling me right now that are irrelevant, that then also contributes to the length of time that some of these persons appear before the committee spend, and that affects subsequent scheduled nominees?
Well, this is the way I look at it as the chair of the committee. If overruling that simple question, which is the tax clearance before us, can generate a debate, which debate would go a length more than the answer that the nominee will give, I will allow the question. Because we have quite a number of people to be vetted a day. So if my ruling, in my wisdom, if the ruling on the matter can generate a debate at the committee level, which debate may take a period longer than a simple answer that I have my task clearance before you.
Right.
I will allow the nominee to just answer the question and matter close.
I see.
That's the end of it.
And we see questions, for instance, that borders on how many wives a nominee has. You spend so much time as well. I mean, what's the essence of that?
At the committee level, members are allowed to ask a question that will go a long way to create a humor.
But you stay quite a while on some of the humor-based questions.
I mean, it is if somebody, you are a nominee, and they ask you how many wives you have. You say, oh, I have one, or I have two. That ends it. If I am going to say that you shouldn't have asked that question, and I have to give a ruling, and after the ruling, the questioner will have the opportunity to respond. You understand that, oh, this is my view. It takes so much time. But the nominee will tell you, I have one, I have two, I have three. Which solve the answer. And in this particular country, there is nothing wrong for somebody taking a decision to have two wives or three. I mean, my friends will tell you that their religion allows them to take 4 if they are capable of looking after them. So what is the worry about it? What is so much important about that particular question? And for me to be overruling, which so will again generate a debate. So sometimes you can cut a matter, a long matter, short.
But as you indicated, some of the questions that you consider as irrelevant, you allow them so that it will generate a debate.
No, I mean, I allow them to avoid the debate that will be generated out of my disallowing, me disallowing the question.
But in some instances, when you even overrule those questions or disallow those questions, we see some members of the committee still challenging your authority, saying that, Chair, you stay away from this or stay out of this matter. We've seen it a number of times.
When I'm convinced and strong about my position, I will stick to my position and ask the nominee.
But sometimes they get their way.
Well, that is how it is. Sometimes life in Parliament is about give and take.
And especially with the minority leader. I know that you've had to answer a number of questions.
Well, the minority leader, I want Ghanaians to understand that before commencing the vetting, we had a meeting.
Right.
And that meeting was attended by some former members of the committee. And a decision was taken as to the modalities that the committee will have to be followed. And I was made aware that by practice, convention, and by the agreement that we are reaching that very day, minority leader and the chairman of the committee has unlimited questions to ask.
Unlimited questions?
Unlimited questions to ask.
And that was a convention?
And they have unlimited hours of asking the question. I said, oh, how? Then they brought out issues relating to J.H. Mensah. Then they mentioned the current Speaker of Parliament when he was a minority leader. They came to Honorable Haruna Idrisu. They came to Muntaka when he will have to act in place of Haruna Idrisu in asking the question. You also have unlimited. So it's like by convention practice and the agreement that we have reached, I am not supposed, as a chairman of the committee, to limit the ranking member to the number of questions that he or is supposed to ask. So that being the rule, I was playing by that particular rule. Now, let me tell you, in Parliament, there is a way of handling leadership of Parliament. There are certain things that the majority leader will do and get away with it. If you are a member of Parliament, you do that. You may not get away with it. Certain privileges goes with the responsibilities that they have by virtue of the position that they occupied. So in Parliament, we are not strict on the majority leader and the minority leader as the other for instance, a member should debate once on an issue. But if a member is even having 5 minutes to debate an issue on the floor of Parliament, they may end up giving the majority leader or the minority leader more than the 5 minutes that others are.
But then again, does that not create a problem? But, you know, help me understand what was the reasoning behind that convention where the ranking on this committee is giving unlimited number of questions to ask, unlimited time to ask questions. What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, the reasoning, I believe the rationale behind is that for a thorough vetting, as I indicated, members are entitled to only 3 questions with a follow-up. So assuming you are a member of the committee, you have a question to ask, then you can quickly pass on your question to the ranking member or the chairman of the committee, because it can happen to both sides. I have unlimited time, he has unlimited time. So if a member on my side has some point to make with regard to questions that you have to pose to the nominee, but has not exhausted it, the practice is that you pass on those questions to your leader. And the leader will add those questions to his questions and pose to the nominee. As a result, if there is a limit, he doesn't know the number of questions that may be coming to him on his side to be added to his own questions to ask. So I believe that is the reason why by practice. But if we have realized that,
would you admit that is contributed to the problem?
Yes. If that is left to, you see, we had a second meeting after the first day, and that day the minority leader came out to say that don't take that power away from me, but I am going to be reasonable about it.
That's what Ahiafor said.
That is what Ahiafor said at the committee.
It was going to be reasonable.
Any member of the committee, he was going to be reasonable about it. And on one occasion, when he was not being reasonable, for me, I told him that, my brother, you have done this number of hours. You are left with 3 more questions to ask. At the 3rd question, I will stop you. And at the 3rd question, he said, if you are going to stop me, then I will not even ask my 3rd question. I will want to end it here. And he ended it. And
yes,
I did the prelims and then discharged the witness. So based on that particular meeting that we had, that he said he was going to be reasonable about it, if I realize as a chair that he is not being reasonable, he was excessive, he alone has asked a question for more than 2 hours, then I can say, minority leader, where we are going looks like you are not being reasonable.
But even in instances where
the committee, so can you ask this number of questions and end it?
When you even try to get him to realize that, he challenges your authority. We see that. He will ask you, Mr. Chairman, don't come into this. Stay out of this. Well, I have the floor.
Well,
We've seen this. So that's what
Mr. Chairman, don't come into this, particularly if he asks a question and I'm trying to object to the question and then put him on the correct tool. For instance, he was asking a question pertaining to how somebody would intersect documents. Documents.
Yes.
Now, I told him that, look, all these things are guided by the Whistleblowers Act. So do you expect him to mention that at TV3, Alfredo Kansi is the one giving me the documents? So therefore, you cannot ask that question. Nominee, don't answer the question. So proceed with another question.
Do you feel disrespected?
Well, I indicated that in every society, some are morally righteous, others are contrary. By the virtue of the position that I am occupying, certain things should be welcome.
But do you feel disrespected sometimes?
Well, to some extent.
To some extent?
Yes.
You feel disrespected?
I feel so disrespected. Because I have adopted a tolerance approach in order to get the nominees vetted. Because where I am sitting, I have sense from my opponent that they may want to be disruptive of the vetting. It happens on one occasion when the members of the minority were all asked to put the microphone on. And when all the microphone is on, your microphone will not work. The nominee's microphone will not work. That is a bit disruptive. I wouldn't want what even happened, the unfortunate incidents that happened at the vetting committee to happen. So I have this tolerance posture to be able to tolerate them and at the same time get the work done. So I've always resisted the temptation of the chairperson being called upon to go and fight in his father's farm. I am a member of the NDC. I am NDC MP. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who is nominating members of the NDC to various ministries, is our father. So if the nominee is before us and I'm being invited to engage in a fight, knowing very well that that particular fight would destroy my father's crop, why do I have to engage in that particular fight? I would want people to look at Bernard Ahiafor in the circumstances of that nature as a timorous person, as a weak person who is not ready to fight when they are extending a fight to him in order to save my father's crop rather than agreeing to go and fight in my father's farm in order to destroy the crop. So if you look at it in a very unprecedented manner, continuously we vetted successfully till the end of the nominees that we have. And in less than 2 weeks, we are able to vet over 40 nominees, which is a remarkable achievement. So if somebody said, Bernard Ahiafor, you are weak, and in a very unprecedented manner, less than 2 weeks, you've done the over 40 nominees, at the end of the day, what am I looking for? What I'm looking for is to get the people successfully vetted and probably the report taken unanimously by the agreement of the entire committee, which so far, as I stand here, the over 30 people that we have vetted, no one was by a majority decision. It is all by a consensus, unanimity. And Parliament has also approved them by a consensus. And I think that should be my greatest achievement, irrespective of how people look at me. Well, since the results must speak for me now.
Right. You accept that you are excessively tolerant to some extent.
Yes.
Would you say that that is a weakness or a strength because of how things are played out at the committee?
Well, it is left for the general public to now judge whether it is a strength or it is a weakness. Because if I had, for me, if I had engaged in that pageant, we will not be where we are now. We can argue over one nominee for hours, and the nominee will be sitting down there. So if I have a tolerance approach that, my brother, what do you want to do? Do it. And everything will come to an end. In a record time, the nominee will get up and then we'll bring in another person and then we'll continue the process. And I think that is what exactly happened, leading to over 40 people being vetted. So as we speak right now, we do not have any backlog. The backlog is for the 12 people to be approved because new nominees have not come yet. We didn't have any communication from His Excellency the President regarding new nominations. So whoever has been nominated have all been vetted in a record time.
Would you agree with those who say that it is your level of tolerance in tolerating the disrespect, as you have admitted that sometimes you feel disrespected, it is that tolerance of the disrespect that also contributed to what happened on Thursday night?
Oh, I disagree completely, because why would this generate into what happened? So if I'm tolerating you, it doesn't mean that I should be taking liberty for nonsense. Let me give an example. Alfredo Kansi.
Yes.
I want to slap you, and you put your hand at the back. That don't slap me. Why should that generate into a fight? Reasonably. How can that generate into a fight? I said, I'm going to slap you, and your hand is at the back, that don't slap me. How on earth could that generate into a fight? It's like they have a premeditated mind. Where I am sitting, I can eavesdrop into their conversations.
You eavesdrop into their
Yes.
And what do you hear them saying?
At the point that they were asking the deputy whip to call members, then I knew something was going to happen, as a result of which they were asking that members should be called in.
So you heard the minority leader telling the deputy to call the MPP MPs in.
And at a point, he even rained insults on Jerry Ahmed. But
insult on Jerry Ahmed.
Yes, I heard it clearly.
For what?
Well, he called him silly. This is not what I brought you here to come and do. So please, help me do what I asked you to do.
Yes,
he said so.
Silly.
He said so. He said so. And any member of the committee who pays attention to them will listen to the insult. And if Jerry Ahmed can be fair to the general public, he would honestly say that he had received insult that fateful day.
The Thursday night?
Yes.
And what was the instruction to him?
Well, the instruction was that he should call members. You know, for Jerry, even going to prevent Akando from taking the seat was on the instruction of the minority leader.
Instructed Jerry Ahmed to prevent that's the health minister designated from taking the oath.
Yes. I heard him loud and clear.
You heard Ahiafor give that instruction?
I heard him loud and clear.
You're ready to defend this position?
On one occasion at the vetting, I had a cause to place on record the minority leader, why are you asking your side to put on all the microphones?
It was the same Thursday?
Because I heard him asking them to that all of them should put on their microphone. I then asked, why? I've forgotten to even put my microphone on, so it will be captured by the media. That minority leader, why are you asking your side to put on the microphone to disrupt the proceedings? It cannot be for any other reason apart from trying to disrupt the proceedings that you will call on your side to put on the microphone. You see, Ghanaians will look at my demeanor, look at him, and then they can judge. It is not everything that you do by a physical statement. Once you are result-oriented, you should be focused. And in this case, the focus is on getting the nominees vetted and approved by Parliament, to a large extent by consensus. It is only when you have some few disagreements that you go by a majority decision. And then the minority under our rules can write a minority report if they deem it necessary so to do. So for me, life generally is about being accommodative. People may take that as your weakness, but I'm telling Ghanaians to judge me by the results that we have achieved. And I'm again repeating that if I have been combative at the vetting, as expected, by now, we'll not even have vetted 20 people.
But if you had an indication of the chaos possibly happening, even before it did, because of your eavesdropping of that instruction that Ahiafor gave to Jerry Ahmed, based on your word, then as chair, could you have done anything about it?
Well, there are instances where I'll send people to go and call Marshal.
So why didn't you do that?
I did.
You called the Marshal on Thursday night?
I did. But you see, parliamentary proceedings is also going on the floor of Parliament. At the time that I eavesdropped and asked that they should bring me the Marshal. So
the Marshal couldn't leave?
The situation calmed down. I didn't see the Marshal. We were proceeding. Then all of a sudden, when it got to Honorable Akando, the incident started. I can tell you in confidence that Honorable Minority Leader Alexander Ahiafor had words with me to the effect that as for Akando, it's okay, Akando should be vetted.
That night?
That night.
That Thursday?
No, in the afternoon.
Okay.
You
would agree that,
yes,
regardless of the time you spend on that day.
Let me tell you what happened. The clerk should be able to produce a calendar of the people to be vetted or the nominees to be vetted throughout that particular week.
Right.
When the list was produced, as a ranking member, I discussed it with him. And he even had a course to make changes that let this one come first before this. And I accommodated all those things. We have that particular paper which can speak, which can be subjected to a forensic examination to determine that this handwriting is actually the handwriting of
Ahiafor. He suggested that some nominees should be vetted before others.
In order.
And that was accommodated.
That was accommodated. So I asked the clerk that, well, it is all about vetting. For me, it doesn't matter who is vetted first, who is vetted second. My problem is to slate the nominees for vetting. They will bring the chiefs and opinion leaders to come and give moral support, and all of a sudden will not be able to vet them. This comes with huge inconvenience and cost to the nominees, as well as the chiefs and the opinion leaders invited to support. So apparently, my attitude is that, please, when we want to vet 6 people, we cannot in the middle take a decision that we are only going to vet 4 and 2 will not do.
Right.
This happened once. And we all saw the inconveniences that was caused to the nominee because she had to bring the people all the way from Pechima. Yeah. And that night, we had to go and render an apology to them for our inability to take them. So I'm personally not happy that knowing 6 people are supposed to be taken that day, for you to say that we've taken the 5th person, so the 6th one, we are not going to take it. I mean, I find it very difficult to take. So, very difficult to accommodate. So
prior to that moment, you're saying on authority, on camera, that Alexander Ahiafor had agreed that Kwabena Akando should be vetted on that Thursday night.
Yes.
I see. But on that day, based on the schedule, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa was supposed to be vetted on that day as well.
Yes.
Right? So then, what happened? Why?
You see,
because you indicated Akando, he agreed.
Some of them are supposed to be vetted on Wednesday per our calendar. But because of the statement from Oliver Baker Vomawo, we decided to deal with that particular issue. Regarding that, I was even surprised for him to come and say that this statement doesn't come from me, but it is rather coming from MPP Project Bureau, a platform called MPP Project Bureau.
He admitted to one statement. The other, he said it didn't come from him. And it is coming from MPP Project Bureau. So we were coming there to listen to him, and at the end of the day, refer the matter to privileges. But once the person has appeared before the committee, that this statement categorically it is not coming from me, it is coming from MPP Project Bureau. This is the one I am responsible for. If you are not happy about this particular statement, I am prepared to render an apology. I was surprised that when I opened the floor for comment, members from the minority side, instead of comment, were rather asking questions. If somebody wronged you, you have taken the person to court, and the person has come to the court to say that, I have admitted I have wronged you. Give me an opportunity to apologize. Do you go into the merit of the matter? You were surprised.
I was highly surprised. So I keep on saying that, honorable members, you are only allowed to make comments, but not to ask questions.
But you had the power to stop them, so why didn't you do that?
I stopped them. So
they continue.
So Vomawo never answered any question, apart from the apology that he rendered. He never answered a single question, because I was able to say that give comment. If you ask question, I will overrule your question. It is only comment that I will be entitled to. You are dealing with people who have the mind that, oh, this is what they want to do.
But even the question about the Appointments Committee even being the right forum or not for you to interrogate an allegation against you, you can't be a judge in your own court.
That is why we are of the view that we are coming there to refer him to the Privileges Committee. And then the Privileges Committee will go through the procedure leading to sanction.
But you didn't do that.
Here
you exacted an apology from him.
That is why it's not that the committee exacted an apology. I received a call in the morning of that particular Wednesday from Oliver Bakavoma's lawyer.
Nana Atodazi.
Not Nana Atodazi, but my learned friend Kojoga Daudu.
I see.
To the effect that this post is not from my client. This is where it is coming from.
Okay.
But this post is for my client. But when you are not happy about it, we are coming before the committee to apologize to the committee. So the committee is the committee that has been offended, that we've collected bribe. It is the committee members. So if the person is coming to render apology to the committee members, why do you refer him to another forum?
But in previous instances, it wasn't the Appointments Committee that dealt with these allegations.
That is why I am saying that we're supposed to refer him to Privileges.
Yes.
But he said that, committee, I want to come and apologize to you. At the end of the day, if he is referred to the Privileges, and he said he wants to apologize, he will not be rendering the apology to the Privileges Committee members, but you have to render the apology to Appointment Committee members. So once a decision is taken to render apology to the affected members,
well, but
why would you say that don't render the apology?
Prior to that, you had already invited him. You had already invited him prior to that call by Kojoga Dawood that morning.
Yes.
The Wednesday before the, in fact, the Tuesday before the Wednesday, you had already issued a statement inviting him.
Yes.
So whether Dawood called you or not, he was still going to appear before the committee.
If you listen, it doesn't mean that the person cannot appear before the committee.
Does the committee have the powers?
Yes.
To invite somebody to appear before it?
The committee can even subpoena.
Interrogate
you see
the person like that?
People are confused. If you look at our own standing order, I think it is 284, 234, and then Article 103 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Every parliamentary committee regarding witnesses has the power of the High Court. So, if we do not have the power to invite him to appear before us, then it means that the court on no occasion have the power to appear, ask anybody to appear before it. Do you understand? Right. So, he is appearing before the committee as a witness to substantiate his allegation. Then, depending upon what happened, a decision will be taken to refer it to Privileges. And Privileges will deal with issues relating to contempt. But fortunately and unfortunately, when he appeared, he said, this is what I am responsible to. Right. This, I am not responsible to it. But in any case, I'm prepared to render an apology. And you see, the practice is that when you go to court in circumstances of this nature, and you listen to the lawyer, you only give the floor to the person involved to render the apology from his mouth. And that suffices. And some are of the view that the note of the lawyer should be tabled. I mean, how? As a practicing lawyer, it doesn't happen in court that you will go to court, go and defend a client based on your own note, and the court will tell you that I want to have it. Yeah. It is only even when you refer to a report, you give the citation of the report to the court, and that is all. They won't say they want to take your note away from you. But I didn't take it serious with them because some of them are not lawyers, so they don't really know the rudiment of the game. I keep on correcting them, but it looks like they have a premeditated mind.
Well, let's come back to the work of the committee. The Thursday night, you indicated that there was an agreement that Kwabena Mintakando was going to be vetted that night.
Yes.
So what changed?
So we had
what changed?
I don't know what has changed. I don't know what
that led to the opposition.
Yes.
Of
I do not know.
And that's
so
why I come back to.
I was highly surprised. So I was even asking the minority leader that you previously spoke to me that Kobna Minta Akando can be taken, and that he personally reached out to you that he wants to be taken that evening, based on the fact that he had brought people from Joboso to Accra. So he pleaded that he wants to be vetted. You do not have a problem with it. So now what has changed? I can tell you his answer.
What did he say?
That he is under pressure.
Under pressure from
Under
where?
pressure from his party.
To do what?
Well,
to not allow Kobna Minta Akando to be vetted?
maybe probably the speed at which we are going, probably his party, that's what I can deduce, is not comfortable with it, because I wouldn't know why he will be under pressure.
But you know that a lot of the things you're saying he said to you, at the end of the day, is going to be your word against his.
Yes.
And are you ready to still stand?
I can even swear oath to repeat this statement.
You can swear an oath.
Yes, I can
that
swear an
Alexander
oath.
Penyomakin said
Yes.
everything
that
you
I had
have
that
said
understanding,
to me
yes.
in this interview.
I had that understanding with him regarding Akando. And many occasions he will say, my brother, I am under pressure.
And the insult you say he rained on Jerry Ahmed.
Jerry Ahmed.
You can swear an oath.
Yeah, I can swear an oath. I can swear an oath.
Eventually, it led to this chaos.
Yes, it led to this chaos.
And that's where I come back to my earlier question,
yes.
whether your tolerance of the disrespect that
yes.
you say that you feel sometimes yes. from the minority leader yes. may have contributed to it as well. Because on that day...
Well, that is why I said, how could he have contributed to this?
On that day, a little over 5 hours was spent on Sam George.
Yes.
A chunk of that number of hours was questioning from Alexander Penyomakin because of this convention that you say you have. But does the convention bar you, the chair, from ensuring that the reasonability that he promised you would be applied?
Oh, yes.
It prevents you. You can't do anything about it.
I have taken his words that he is actually going to leave by them.
So if he doesn't in instances
if he
like
doesn't, that is why I'm saying that on one occasion he doesn't. I step in to say that it looks like you are abusing the endless opportunity given you. So you have 3 more questions to ask.
But knowing on that day...
You couldn't ask the 3rd question.
But knowing on that day, the schedule that you had, the number of nominees you had to vet on that day, you look at the time, could have also exerted your authority as chair of the committee, is it not?
You see, in everything you do, you must balance the past with the present. You know that there are instances where nominees are vetted for more than a day. So
there are specific circumstances.
If my nominee is being vetted for 5 hours, I do not think it is too much.
You don't think 5 hours interview?
I don't think.
Vetting is too much?
I don't think it is too much. Go to the record and ask the number of hours Pio Gabra was vetted. But
it depends also on the kind of questions are being asked, which some of which you say you were uncomfortable with the questions because you thought that they were irrelevant.
For instance, where I sit, I don't see the impulse of all the questions that a minority leader was asking.
You don't
for me, if you are holding on to something and your question is going to lead to that conclusively, then I would agree with you. But you take a point and begin asking a question, and the nominee will be providing answers to the extent that you will be convinced by the answers and you have to abandon your position and you go to another area. Then you will come back to, what are you doing?
You don't see the import of all the questions he asked.
For me, some of the questions are as if the nominee has committed a crime and you have to cross-examine to establish the crime committed by that person, which we lawyers normally do in a courtroom. But I see a difference here. You understand? Yes. I see a difference here in the sense that reading the Constitution in Article 78 and 94 carefully, the nominee before you, is he or she qualified to occupy the position? And then you test his competence on the position that he's going to occupy. Now, where you live, whether rented or purchased, how does that affect the competence of the nominee who is a member of parliament from working in a designated ministry as a minister?
Are you only asking about the competence of the nominee, or other related matters as well that the nominee should be answering?
The other related matters should go a long way to make the nominee unfit for the position that he is supposed to occupy.
And you think that that question...
The fact that Alfredo Kansi has 2 wives and I have 1 means that you cannot be a journalist. And I can only be a journalist because I have 1 wife. So I try to understand the impulse of the question. What is it leading to? It is leading nowhere. It's leading nowhere.
The questions of the minority leader was leading nowhere?
It was leading nowhere.
But he had the destination in mind.
But has he reached that destination? Maybe you are the jury. You should be judging whether in any case he has reached that particular destination regarding the nominees that we have vetted so far. If you read the destination tomorrow, that is a different thing. But where I stand, he's not been able to reach any destination. Is he with Okujeto Ablakwa, or Sam George, or Amaboa, or the regional ministers that we have vetted? Is he Honorable Ato Fosun, or Kwame Agboja, or Ahmed Ibrahim? He has not landed on anything concrete as a result of the questions that he was asking. That will go a long way to pin the persons down. The question that you should be asking yourself is, the person appearing before you, is he eligible? The eligibility criteria, is he competent to hold that particular position? If he's not competent to hold the position, why do I say so? Oh, because of ABCD. It's like vetting is being used by the honorable minority leader to settle political scores. That is how I can say it. Why was a decision taken not to approve Honorable Emmanuel Ama Kofi Boa by consensus? He said when the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, was delivering the State of the Nation address, his comment as the leader of the House denigrated the former president, as a result of which they have taken a decision not to
take part in his approval.
Take part in his approval. But should that be a reason? But I said, okay.
But that was enough a reason for them.
If that is enough a reason for you, I will give it to you. Let the report be a majority decision. So, are you not using the vetting process to score for political scoring? You understand? So, assuming Emmanuel Ama Kofi Boa has not been appointed or has not been nominated to the position of lands and natural resources, where will you settle the political scores with him? The videos that he was bringing, if you watch all those videos, it is a political statement made by the nominees before us. So you are using the appointment committee to address those issues. How does those issues go a long way to establish that the person is not qualified, is not competent to hold that particular position?
The chaos that resulted in all of this.
That's unfortunate.
You have apologized to Ghanaians.
Yes.
But beyond that apology, the Speaker has taken some decisions.
Yes.
Including the suspension of some 4 members of the committee.
Yes.
Is it one that you agree with?
Perfectly. Because what we need to understand is that a committee chair is more or less like a speaker. And there is nothing that the committee chair can do, or the powers of the committee chair, that the Speaker of Parliament doesn't have. Now, if you listen to Speaker's statement very carefully, his decision was informed by the fact that the issue happened in Parliament. In Parliament, yeah. Because the committee sitting is a parliamentary sitting. So it's as if the incidents happen on the floor of Parliament. So as a Speaker of Parliament, he has taken a decision that those members should be suspended. And people say that the suspension should be 8 days instead of 2 weeks. I listened to that in the media.
Yes.
But I said, why? By our rules, Parliament doesn't normally sit on Mondays. So the sitting is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we have 4 days sitting in a week. So the 2 weeks would have come to 8 days. So why the hula baloo? We don't sit during Saturday, we don't sit on Saturdays, and we don't sit on Mondays, unless a waiver is given for us to sit on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. But that is not the case that we have at hand. And people say the suspension should be up to 8 days. But 2 weeks, if you calculate it by the parliamentary calendar, how many days is it? It's exactly 8 days. So I don't know why people should say that it should not be 2 weeks, but it should rather be 8 days. I don't know how they are calculating the 2 weeks.
I see, but which law really? Which law gives the Speaker the powers to suspend these 4 members of Parliament for this number of days? Which specific provision?
Well, I think we have to look at the combined effect of Standing Order 5, 129, 130, there about the combined effect. We give the authority to the Speaker so to do.
To suspend members of Parliament?
Yes.
From attending to the business of the House?
Yes.
Depriving their constituents of representation?
He has that particular power.
He has the power.
Even every member of Parliament can suffer a suspension.
Even before they are head?
If a member of Parliament cannot suffer. You see, the difference is that if the incidents had happened outside Parliament and a report is made to Parliament, the approach would have been different. You go to court and commit contempt before the court and see whether the court will give you a hearing before making pronouncement on you. That is contempt in facie query.
What's the meaning of that?
Contempt, that is contempt in the presence of the court. You understand?
Yes.
The judge has the authority to go ahead and make pronouncement on you because the incidents happen before the court. So once the incident, that is why if you listen to the recording, he said contempt in facie parliamentary. That is what it means. That is what it means. But people are losing sight over that particular word used by the Speaker of Parliament. And they want to treat it as if somebody has lodged a report where you have to follow the procedure. You refer the matter to Privileges Committee. Privileges Committee will conduct a hearing, bring a report to the House, and a decision will be taken. No. These are two different approaches.
You were
ex facie parliamentary will be outside Parliament, but in facie will be inside Parliament, and the law allows him to take that decision on the matter.
In fact, that's a point of debate,
yes,
which really we can have.
I've listened to the debate
going forward.
I've listened to the debate.
But you were seated at the Appointments Committee sitting the next day. That was a Friday.
Yes.
when the minority leader, together with the members of the minority on the appointments committee, rained some unprintable words on the clerk to the committee, calling her partisan, shame on her, they don't need her, and all the other words that they use. You were seated there, but you didn't do anything about that.
Well,
why?
Thank you very much. It was not only Friday. I think Thursday, the same thing happened. And after the incidents, I had a word with minority leader. The minority leader, I feel you are too harsh on the clerk. She doesn't deserve that. There is nothing that the clerk has done that was not authorized. Your allegation that you are not seeing the draft report is unfounded. Because you and I will be sitting down there, the draft report will be given to us. Then I will hand over your copy to you personally, or the clerk will place it before you. Mm-hmm. And because I have a copy, I normally engage Mahama Shaibu to go through the report. He's also a member of the committee. Right. Before I would even go through it. And it is expected that after going through it, if you have reservation about some aspect of the report, you raise it with me. Then I take it up with the clerk.
Right.
But when you don't have any reservation about the report, the clerk, after some time, will go ahead and print the report for me to sign. And copies will be made by members. That is the practice that I know. For instance, when one report was ready, and he came to say that they want to do it by majority, mm-hmm. though the draft report that came stated consensus, because at the time, stated consensus, at the time, because at the time that we vetted the nominee, the decision, the atmosphere was by consensus. But when he came to say he wants that particular report to be a majority report, after reading through the report, I reverted to the clerk that the position has changed. It's rather going to be a majority report instead of consensus, instead of unanimity. Right. So the clerk has done exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And you know, Parliament is a place that allows dialogue. Mm-hmm. We reach out to each other all the time. So after reaching out, we've now agreed to then take the report by consensus. Right. Subject to a text which he, minority leader, sent to me, mm-hmm. and I still have it on my phone, to be included in the report.
He sent you a text message?
Yes, a text message indicating that they had agreed that if the nominee mm-hmm. can accept to go by these words in form of showing remorse, then...
Which nominee exactly?
The nominee in question is Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibua. Then the majority reports will change to be a consensus report. So you realize that when I was even taking that particular report, I need to announce that the earlier report given
was a
majority decision, but after Jojo,
it's
been a consensus report.
Yeah.
So the text that he had given me, I consulted the nominee, and the nominee is agreeable to it. I consulted the leader of the House, majority leader, and majority leader said that he was aware about the text, and that text, actually, he has read through it, so it is okay. Then we integrated that particular text into the report. Mm-hmm. His own words, without any change. Then we laid the report. Then at the time of taking the report, he was not even at the chamber. So after moving the motion and presenting the report, mm-hmm. Honorable Patrick Yaoboma seconded the report and was contributing to the report. And then he walked in to say that he had not seen
a copy of the
report. He only realized that the report was being taken and that they had agreed on a text which was not in the report. So he interrupted Honorable Patrick Yaoboma. Patrick Yaoboma, being a gentleman and really an honorable person, took it in good faith, only for him to be shown his own text in the report.
The text that he was saying was not there.
Was not there.
Had been captured in the report.
Had been captured, only for him. So a little bit of patience would have revealed to him that what you wanted to be done is really captured. If he, assuming it is not captured, after reading it, you could have reached out to me. But he didn't reach out to me when a copy was given to him. And he cannot pretend not to have a copy which captures his own wordings. That satisfies him for the nominee to be taken by consensus. So is that the way we should go? A little bit of patience would have solved problems. Now, regarding patience, I have a cause to even place on record that we need to be patient. Patience is the key. It is out of patience that we'll be able to operate an ant and see the intestine. I said this before the committee. When he launched attack on Honorable Dr. Omani Boama. As a matter of fact, this committee has written to Omani Boama to be vetted at 11 on that fateful day. What happened was that, owing to the changes that he personally made, Omani Boama was going to be vetted at 9 o'clock. So we tasked the clerk to communicate that to Omani Boama before the following day. And according to the clerk, they called him throughout. They were not able to reach out to him. So at a pre-sitting, we said, if such being the case, then let's take another person. I think that was, who was that to be taken?
After Edward Omani Boama that day, I think it was the transport minister designated.
Yes, the transport. So we can take the transport minister before we come to Edward Omani Boama.
I think this is the special initiative minister designate.
That is Ajekum, Honorable Ajekum. Okay, Honorable Ajekum.
Yes.
So we can take the Honorable Ajekum before taking this. Little did I know that he will come and be reprimanding
the clerk,
the Omani Boama. And then when he did that, Honorable Joyce Bawa Muntari walked over that by the letter that was written, it is 11 o'clock. So what you did was uncalled for. Then I apologized and said that it's just a matter of being patient. This was the issue. So if you had been patient to know why such a thing happened, you won't jump into a hasty conclusion and be blaming the person, only for you to be apologizing. So what he sought to do was to shift the blame onto the clerk.
So you disagree that that the clerk is partisan?
No, the clerk is never partisan. Partisan in what manner? So what he did to the clerk is rather unfortunate. It is uncalled for. I mean, it is unbecoming of a member of parliament. In parliament, we have hierarchy. If a clerk of a committee is putting up a particular conduct that you are dissatisfied with, the channels are there for you to follow, but not to behave in the full glare of the camera like what he did. Is rather unfortunate. Parliament has a clerk of parliament, and committees has a clerk.
Yes.
The committee's clerk work under the main clerk of parliament. So if there is something that you are dissatisfied with the performance of a clerk, or you conceived an idea, perceived a clerk to be partisan, or clerk of committee to be partisan, it accords with common sense and reason that you pick it up with the main clerk of the committee, but not to stand in front of cameras and use those words against her. She is a mother, and she has been in this house for 19 good years. She doesn't deserve that. It is uncalled for. So I expect my learned friend, the minority leader, to be apologizing to this particular clerk.
You want Afenyomakin to apologize to the clerk?
Rather than going around to defend this unfortunate incident.
He says in some instances you have even been a bit uncomfortable with the work of the clerk.
If I am a bit uncomfortable, why is my character and tenacity didn't lead me into pronouncing on my anger by using those provocative words? Am I also not a human being? I know that when the clerk has done something that I am not happy about, there is a channel that I should take it to. That is, take it up with the clerk of parliament, but not to stand before the cameras and behave like the way he did. It's uncalled for.
You want him to apologize?
He must render an apology
to the clerk of the committee. The clerk of the committee deserves an apology because he doesn't deserve those words to be used. We instruct, if the clerk of the committee has given you a notice of a pre-sitting, which we do in the mornings before we start sitting, why will you be angry that the notice came too late? Sometimes look at the time that we will close and then we take a decision that this is what we will do the following day. So I want the public to bear with the clerk that sometimes she must, if you don't close vetting, she will also don't close. If you close at 11, she will be closing at 11. Whilst other clerks have gone home, but she will be there. So she is really sacrificing for the appointment committee. So instead of applauding her, we should not denigrate her before the cameras. No. We can invite the clerk to your office and tell the clerk that you have done ABCD. I'm not happy about this. Next time, that is not the way you should do it. But without even telling him that, then you just stand before the cameras and then be using those words. You are partisan. I will deal with you. I mean, how? Should those things come from a member of parliament? Deal with her how? How are you going to deal with her? Well, they say they don't want her as a clerk to the appointments committee again. Today they addressed the press that they want her changed as a clerk to the appointments committee.
But my question, therefore, is that does the minority leader and then the entire minority determine who should be a clerk of the committee? If they don't want to work with the clerk, Gifty Jage Goba, then in effect they don't want to work at the appointment committee. Because I, as the chairman of the committee, I can on no occasion recommend the remover.
You can't recommend her
remover. Of the committee, Gifty Jage Goba. No, I won't do that today, and I will not do that tomorrow. What I even intend doing is that as the chairman of the committee, sometimes you take responsibility. So if she is listening to me, she should accept my sincerest apology.
You're apologizing on behalf of Afenyomakin?
Yes. That is the hallmark of a leader.
But he doesn't see anything wrong.
I'm not the cause.
With what
I'm not the cause of it.
He's justified
but I have realized that as a father, as a chairman of the appointment committee, if a member of appointment committee has done something, and in my opinion, such a thing shouldn't have happened, I would apologize. Why did I apologize to Omani Bona when I wasn't the one who behaved towards him in a particular manner? Because I am the chairman of the committee. Why did I apologize to Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa for the post that he smuggled himself to be vetted on Thursday, when the letter that I have perused with my eye, he is supposed to be vetted on Thursday? Why did I render the apology? I am not the cause of that particular post. And the post was definitely coming from the minority side. But based on my upbringing, I did not argue the thing further, but to render apology. So you will see me on many occasions rendering apology for things that I am not the cause.
Well, but if you do it too much too, don't you think it's going to be to your disadvantage?
I will make sure I don't do it too much. If I will do it in a very reasonable way.
If you are convinced that there was some wrongdoing by a particular member of the committee, in this case the minority leader, why don't you as chair, why don't you as chair get him to take responsibility for his actions and not rather apologize continuously on his behalf or on their behalf for what you did not do? I mean, at some point, that will be to your disadvantage.
As a leader, you must lead by example. There were a few occasions that after rendering the apology to the affected nominee, he also followed up with an apology. Probably, if I had not taken the lead to render an apology, he wouldn't have followed up. You see, in my culture, if I'm sitting with you and you have done something wrong in public, if I want to engage in reprimanding you in public, we may engage in probably a fight. So my habit is that after the whole show, I will call you and tell you that you've gone this way. I think that is not in the right direction. Next time, don't go that way. You've gone the wrong directions. Probably doing that to you in public, which people would have been expecting from me, for me, is not the best way of solving the problem.
What's the best way you think the appointments committee can recover and redeem its destroyed image in the eyes of the public as a result of what happened on Thursday night?
Well, what happened on Thursday night does not only affect the integrity of the appointment committee, but the integrity of Parliament as a whole. Because Ghana is noted as a beacon of peace in the whole of Africa. We have conducted several peaceful elections. It's rather unfortunate that the minority side are still bleeding from the election wounds.
They are bleeding?
Yes, they are bleeding. They are bleeding from the election wounds because their number was not expected by them.
You think all of this is about the defeat in the 2024 election?
Yes, I will attribute it to the defeat. But why would they be? Look, the first day I took the seat, when the statement was being delivered by the then majority leader, business statement was being delivered by the then majority leader, I could see that at a point, the minority leader will ask the revered former ministers of the House to stand up. Then they will also have to stand up. And then at a point, he will ask them to sit down. And then they will sit down. For me, he's acting out of frustration.
Ahiafor is frustrated?
Yes, he's acting out of frustration as a result of the election defeat.
You say they are bleeding?
Yes. They are bleeding from the defeat.
But it says they are a minority that is a mighty few.
They can give any name.
And a happy few.
They can give any name. But in reality, they are still bleeding from the election defeat.
They are happy?
They are not happy. They are bleeding from the election defeat.
You are challenging the words of the minority leader.
Very soon, you would realize that they are actually bleeding from the election defeat. It's a result that they were not expecting.
So what we are saying...
Mighty minority in which sense?
That's what they are doing.
Why are they not talking about the numerical strength rather than physical strength? Because if you talk of numerical strength, are they mighty?
You said they will not allow themselves to be bullied.
You can please yourself by using the word mighty. But parliamentary decisions are taken by a majority. So where lies your might? That is why I am telling you that they have a preconceived mind to physically disrupt parliamentary proceedings. That is why they are calling themselves mighty.
So they will not allow themselves to be bullied, even though they are minority.
You see, if you look at the posture of the majority, we are not even going majoritarian way, that we form majority therefore, we want to behave in a majoritarian way. No. We still want to build consensus, even at the vetting committee. We want to work and build, come out with a report in a very unanimous manner. We've never exhibited to the effect that we have a majority. So this is the way we want to go. That is why sometimes we over-accommodated them.
You over-accommodated the minority?
Yes, because it's like you are 7 against 4. You understand? With the numerical strength, you are there. So, but you don't want to bully them by way of using your numerical strength. So you want to carry them along. Whatever decision that will be taken, let us all come together and take the decision by consensus. So anytime at all a consensus decision is taken, you are not using your numbers. All members of the committee, whether you are in minority or majority, you have agreed on a common position.
Yeah. How
do you agree on that common position without accommodating them? You cannot. You cannot. So I'm even surprised that they are saying they are mighty minority. That is why I'm saying that if they are using the word mighty, maybe they are using it from a point of a physical strength to disrupt parliamentary business. Ever since we started parliament, both the committee and on the floor of parliament, has the majority exhibited any sign of intimidation? Any sign to the effect that the minorities should feel that we are intimidating them? Point at one incident. So, why from the point that they don't want to be intimidated, they are just setting their own questions and providing an answer to it. I am sure, as a majority member, both at the committee and on the floor of parliament, we haven't exhibited anything to the effect that we are going to intimidate the minority. No. Our approach is to carry them along and build a consensus.
Well, certainly it would be out of place to think that every nominee would have a specific number of hours spent. So by discretion, you decide the number of hours to question a particular nominee.
Yes.
But in instances where, let me give a typical example of what I've got a number of people talking. The Greater Accra Regional Minister designate. You spent less than 8 minutes. I'll call you. You didn't even vet her. You didn't ask her any questions. And you just discharged her and said, thank you. You said that. Thank you for coming. You hear from the committee. What happened in that instance?
So if you watch me, after taking the seat, I asked the usual question. Tell us about yourself.
That's the only question you asked.
Now, after doing that, I look on my left. First person, oh, I don't have a question. Second person, I don't have a question. The third person, I don't have a question. When I even go to the second person, minority leader intimated to me that he wants to have the floor. So I've given the floor to the minority leader, thinking that the minority leader, as usual, may ask questions. But it turned out that minority leader didn't ask any questions. So I look on my right. Once the minority doesn't have any issue with the nominee, I was expecting that any member of the majority that have issue will raise the issue. They've also not raised any issue. So as the chairman of the vetting committee, what am I going to do?
Upon hindsight, do you think you could have done better as a committee in that instance of the Greater Accra Regional Minister nominee?
Well, I have not seen if members do not have any issue. You see, I always maintain that once the person is a member of parliament, one leg is already crossed. One leg is crossed in the sense that the Constitution says for you to qualify to be a minister, you must otherwise qualify to be a member of parliament. And the person sitting before you as a member of parliament has crossed one leg. The rest is her competency.
I see. But Alexander Penyoma says that they were approached by the majority that this nominee, the Greater Accra Regional Minister nominee, cannot stand scrutiny. And so they shouldn't ask her any questions.
Who in the majority has approached?
That's his word.
That's why I'm saying that. Who in the majority has approached?
That's what he says, that there was that kind of consensus that, you know, because she can't stand scrutiny, you weren't aware of this?
What I can say influence was maybe the presence of Honorable Henry Kote, being a member of the minority and
then Titus Glover as well
for Greater Accra. Then Titus Glover, former deputy minister.
In fact, he became a regional minister before.
Okay. And then during the NDC time, former Greater Accra regional minister, Honorable Ahiafor.
Yes.
So for this caliber of people to follow, for me to follow the nominee means that more or less the chiefs behind her, more or less, is an indication of the fact that she is welcome by both sides of the house. So if the person is welcome by both sides of the house, do you have questions to the effect that she should not be welcome? Do you have questions to discredit her from occupying the position that both sides of the house, former ministers, the chiefs, are in for her?
But you indicated
so you take certain factors into consideration in posing a question. Because the very people that she's going to work for, the very people she's going to work with, are before the committee that, hey, we have endorsed her.
Well, it's not about they endorsing her.
Yes.
It's about the committee doing this work.
Yes.
But did you do your work?
That is why I am saying that she has already crossed one leg of this thing. For the fact that she's a member of parliament, she's otherwise qualified to be a minister, and a regional minister.
The other leg is that she must exhibit competence in the discharge of the work.
You see,
in that area, you indicated that earlier,
yes,
that one of the primary objectives of the vetting is to test the competence of the nominee in the ability to discharge his or her work in that particular ministry. But this time around, you say because the chiefs were with her and the former ministers were
unless you are asking me to judge a swimmer by the certificate on the shore. I know Alfredo Kansi very well. And I know that if you are appointed as Greater Accra Regional Minister, I have no doubt that you'll be able to discharge your responsibilities very diligently and reliably. Why would I again be testing your competence?
While I acknowledge your competence and also your confidence in me, which is fine, but it is not so much about you. It's a lot more about the people.
Yes, so now, as the chairperson of the committee, I have opened the floor.
And nobody asked a question?
Nobody asked a question, which means they don't have a doubt about her credibility. They don't have a doubt about her competence. She is a member of parliament, otherwise qualified to be a minister of state. So if basically they do not have a question for the nominee, truly they do not have a question for the nominee. And she's not the first person.
She's the shortest.
In a similar manner.
This is the shortest.
She may be the shortest, but that may not be the shortest in the life of parliament. For instance, when they were vetting the current speaker of parliament for a ministerial position, they didn't ask any question. Go and check the record. When they are vetting Honorable Osechi Mensah, tell me the questions that they've asked. Because they know that the position that you are going, you will be able to deliver. So let us not create the impression that at all costs, you must ask the person question during vetting.
Well, then what's the essence of the vetting?
If you go...
If you're not supposed to ask any questions...
No, it is not at all costs. It's a constitutional requirement. For instance, if you are a lawyer and you go to court and a witness has given evidence which evidence supports your case? Will you go and cross-examine that witness? What is the essence?
Certainly not.
Certainly not.
But
so the same thing applies to vetting.
But in this instance, the person is taking up a task or a duty,
yes,
which you want to confirm whether the person can deliver,
yes,
to the expectation of the people that you represent,
yes,
on the committee.
Yes.
You're asking questions on behalf of the Ghanaian people.
Yes.
So it is not really based on whether you, as a member of parliament, you know the nominee.
So
because we've had instances where some of your committee members say, "Oh, we know you, we love you."
One thing,
bye-bye.
One thing that I realize, Ghanaians are following the vetting process.
Indeed.
To the extent that a member from the majority side had a text message in the form of a question that he should put to the nominee. And he did so. And in doing so, he didn't even cover it. He indicated clearly that they say, I should ask you this question. Do you understand?
Yes.
Why is it that in the case of Linda, the general public didn't do the same thing? I can assure you that questions that some members pose are questions emanating from experts from various fields. Do you understand? But in her case, there was nothing of that nature, which means that the public is in her support to become the regional minister of Greater Accra. Do you understand? So we sit down there as vetting committee members, as representative of people, but at the same time, you have a bit of engagement with them during the vetting process. And you know you represent them. And that is how it should be. It's an idea that I'm so much happy about on the part of the general public, that they should do that always to members of parliament.
Scrutinize your work.
Yes, we may not be expert in all fields. I am a lawyer, and an engineer is being vetted. You understand? So, if an engineer in the same field wants me to pose this particular question, once I have the understanding of the question, why not? I represent them. So I'll pose the question. You understand?
Yes.
But in this case, there was nothing of that nature.
There are 18 more nominees expected.
Now we do adverts.
Yes.
After the adverts, we request for a memoranda from the general public. You understand? We've never received any memoranda.
In the case of Linda.
Yes. And then in all the vetting that we have done, there was one occasion that we received a petition. And that petition is nothing to go with.
Just one?
One.
So the general public hasn't also cooperated with the work of the committee?
Not cooperation.
As in supported your work? Because if you are asking for memoranda...
Yes, that goes a long way to tell you the pedigree of the people nominated by His Excellency the President.
No, so what's the process? How does the general public also contribute to this? And what's the procedure in submitting the memoranda?
If you look at all our advertising
in the newspapers?
In the newspapers. Okay. In the newspapers, the Parliament website, it will request a memoranda from the general public to the clerk of the committee. And upon the clerk of the committee receiving same, they will bring it before us.
Right.
But the memo that we have received on one of the nominees properly should not be directed at the appointment committee, because appointment committee is not the nominating authority. It is the president that nominates.
Right.
So if you are writing against the nomination of the person, until and unless the person is nominated by the appropriate authority, the person doesn't appear before us for vetting.
Right.
You understand?
I get it.
So both sides of the House treated that particular memo the way it deserved to be treated.
I see.
You understand? So the whole process is open to the general public.
So the president will or is expected to nominate some 18 other persons in the coming days to make up the 60 that he promised. They would appear before the committee.
Yeah.
Do you expect the minority to come back and participate in the process?
Why won't they come back? Because you can stage a walk today based on a stated reason. Tomorrow, the reason is not there, so you come back to Parliament. I've also been in minority before. There are instances that we walk out of Parliament because we are not in agreement with a particular thing. But once that thing is over, we come back because we don't want to be part of that decision making. So we allow them to take their decision, and then we state our displeasure in a very honorable manner without destroying any parliamentary property, without causing any mayhem. You stage a walkout.
You support the call that the MPs whose actions led to the destruction of the microphones and the table should be made to pay for it?
Well, the law will have to take its own course. And once a committee is formed, I will leave that decision for the committee to take. I wouldn't want to preempt that.
And maybe finally, before we go, if you look at the current convention that you make reference to, that allows the ranking on the committee, the minority leader, to have unlimited number of questions over an unlimited number of hours. Should it stay or be reviewed?
No, on one, you see, I believe in the principle of Edmond Montesquieu, who propounded the theory of separation of powers. At a point, he came out to say that every man invested with power is liable to abuse it. Therefore, there should be checks and balances. Probably, at the time that this particular rule was propounded, this practice and convention was propounded, it was based on the reasonability of the ranking members of the committee. But now that we realize that that rule is being abused, we need to take a second look at it and place a ban on either the number of questions that you have to ask or the number of hours that within which you have to operate. I believe when we do it that way, some frivolous questions wouldn't have been asked. You go straight to the policy issues to test the knowledge of the nominee on the policies relating to the designated ministry. You will not spend so much time on the CV of the nominee. You won't spend so much time on a task clearance of the nominee when you have a task clearance certificate before you. You won't spend so much time in knowing where the nominee lives and whether it is a rented premises or it is his own house. So I believe that when an upper ceiling is set in terms of hours or a number of questions, it will go a long way to promote the smooth vetting of the appointment committee. So I'm of the view that there should be a ceiling on me as the chairman and then a ceiling on the ranking member.
As a minority leader?
Yeah, minority leader.
Because that's one of the objectives that the Speaker has outlined for this committee's work, to recommend a review of the rules. And this is one that you want to
that
review.
Goes a long way to support the fact that it is an existing practice that I have come to meet.
So it's not your fault?
Why would it be my fault if that is the existing practice that I have come to meet? Unless it is reviewed, it becomes the practice, and the practice must continue.
With some reasonability?
Yes, with some reasonability. Because in everything you do, you need to be reasonable. So now that we have seen how that particular practice and convention can be abused in order to forestall any future abuse of unlimited questions being asked by the minority leader, there should be some limitation placed on it, reasonable limitation placed on it.
How can consensus be built, really? with all this, what's going on now?
Well, once a nominee has appeared before us, and you are given an opportunity to do whatever you are supposed to do, at the end of the day, if you have not established anything against the nominee, for which reason the nominee should not occupy the position that he or she has been designated to occupy, then by consensus, you recommend the approval. It is only when you have something serious based on which you don't want the nominee to occupy that particular position that there will be element of disagreement. Apart from that, it should be by a consensus.
On Thursday night, there was something that you put on your Facebook page.
Yes.
You posted that?
Yes. In life, I believe in giving a long rope for you to hang yourself.
So who hanged himself?
Well, it is for the jury to decide whoever has hanged himself at the end of the day.
Bernard Ahiafor, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Appreciate you sitting with us.
Thank you.
The first Deputy Speaker of this 9th Parliament, the Chair of the Appointments Committee of Parliament. He says he's not under fire. He's a Member of Parliament for the Akachi South constituency. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you very much for staying with us here on TV3. My name is Alfred Okanse. Stay with us. There's a lot more coming up. Have a good evening.
Mekai Brianna mi bo min sami to me kojim. Yes, extra long sanitary pad. It's a how ni ne feel. Cry. Yes, extra long sanitary pad for front. Emo baby NJ. It's me no nioma pa ne shepo yi. So posumine swa. Emma be and see quine. Wow. What's me and your baby? Yes, sanitary pad at warm out. Hey, let me cut over some your soon. I got yes confidence. I got yes. We got yes protection. I got yes. Yes, extra long sanitary pad. Emma Hoto Sronko. We got yes protection.
Sankratway. FDA for Ahiafor.
This is Key Points, the #1 award-winning television news analysis program, providing an enlightened analysis of the key issues facing us as a country.
The key points of the stories that matter with the people who matter.
This is Key Points, the #1 award-winning television news analysis program. Every Saturday, 7 a.m. on TV3 and on 3FM 92.7. TV3, first in news.
What's the best part about your job?
The best part is saving lives. Mother goes home with her baby, or the mother is saved, and those days are very fulfilling.
A journey of inspiration and empowerment meets women who have overcome challenges, embraced their passions, and made a difference in the world.
But if I ask you your fondest memory,
I think it's the children patting me and saying, Miss P, I want to wee-wee.
From heart-to-heart conversations to unforgettable experiences, we explore the emotional highs and lows of womanhood. We'll celebrate the incredible achievements of women and inspire the next generation right here on Today's Woman. Today's Woman with Cookie Tea shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Cousins Baby.
In a world where every moment counts, one team stands ready to deliver the news that shapes our lives. A team driven by truth, integrity, and unwavering dedication. They travel to the front lines in the tireless pursuit of truth to bring you the world stories like never before. Get ready to witness the stories that matter. We have the most trusted voices in journalism who are committed to delivering accurate, balanced, and thought-provoking news. TV3, first in news.
Cash out, oh, cash out. My name is Yawa Sama and I am the winner of the MG jackpot. You heard me right? I've been playing this for quite some time now and then I decided to play again. And then I said, okay, let me just play 3 times. And then I did. Oh my God, I was watching. In fact, my eyes were fixed on the screen because I just wanted to see my number displayed that I have won. And then boom, my number appeared on the screen. I'm telling you, I am the winner of the cash prize. If you want to be a winner like me, just pick your phone, dial *439# and then you could win an amazing cash just like me. Maybe even bigger than mine. So see you on the flip side. Po, 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 po.
This program is rated PG. It contains scenes of brief nudity, mild violence, and strong language. Parental guidance is advised.